Hey folks, welcome to Omega Slings. My name's JB. You may know me as Chuck and Steel. I've been thinking about what video to put up for our very first video on Omega Slings YouTube channel. And I couldn't think of a better video than doing a band tying video. I know it's been done to death. I've never done one on my video. Everybody's been wanting me to do it. So I'm going to do one and put it up on this channel. And maybe some people will find it useful. I'm going to be showing some things that we sell at Omega Slings. And yeah, it just makes your life easier. So let's get to it. All right, y'all. So first, I want to start out by talking about the basic tools you're going to need just to get into making your own slingshot bands. Now, this is going off the assumption that you already know you're going to need latex and tying material, things of that nature. And we'll get into that later in the video. But right now, I want to talk about the basic tools you're going to need to get into making your own slingshot bands. Some of these are got to haves. Some of them are just get them to make your life easier. Okay, the first tool is a roller cutter pad. It's a self-healing roller cutter pad. You're absolutely going to need one of these. This is a small, cheap one. It was my first one I ever got. It works just fine, but a bigger one is even better. They're not very expensive. Uh, just get one. You're going to need it. The next thing you're going to need is an actual roller cutter itself. This is a 45 millimeter. You can get a 60, which is even better. It's just way more expensive to use. Whichever one you get, just don't get one that has a big old guard over the end here, because if you use a template that I'll show you later, sometimes they get in the way and you got to grind on them and work on them just to get them to work. But you're going to need a roller cutter. The next thing you're going to need is a set of scissors or snips. I use snips just because they're smaller and they stow away better. The rest of this stuff, you don't have to have it, but I'm telling you, it makes your life a lot easier. The first one is a band tying tool. Okay. Second one is a set of forceps, and you're going to put, tubing on the end to keep it from messing your bands up. You can tie with just your fingers, but this makes it a lot easier. And that goes with the band tying jig. Like I said, you don't need this, but I'm telling you, this thing is worth its weight in gold if you shoot a lot. If you're only making one band set every 2 or 3 weeks or a month or whatever it is, then you probably don't need one of these. But if you shoot very much at all, get you one of these. Now, this one we carry on the website. It's the best one I've ever used. It's made by Sniper Sling. There's plenty of them out there to choose from, though. There's little small one, horseshoe ones, all kind of stuff. But I would recommend getting one. I recommend this one. Okay, has a little lever here. You can adjust it here. It's got suction cups on the bottom. It's just a pretty cool little thing to have. And the next thing is a band cutting template. This says flat band cutting template. Has you probably can't read it, but it says Chuck and Steel. But anyway, I would get one of these if you shoot very much. You can order it in whatever taper you want. We carry some of these pre-worked out for the measurements on our website, omegaslingsusa.com. But yeah, I would recommend this. All right, so let's get to making some bands now. All right, guys, excuse the mess, but this is a workbench and I use it a lot, so it kind of stays in shambles. But the worst part about it is there's no room in here for me to set a camera up in a good position, so you're sitting on the table, so it may shake while I'm doing this, but I'll do my best. All right, let's start out. I use Sniper Sling bands, Sniper Sling yellow. I like the green. I do not shoot the black. This is what was left of a roll of Sniper Sling .4. Okay, get that out of the way. Here is my template. It says 22 to 14 right here, 270. That's the longest one you could get at the time. Now you can get them to 280, which means they go to 300 up here. This one is 290. I'm hoping y'all can read that. It says 290 right there. But all these lines mean something. These lines are the lines here and here. They're going to line up to cut your template out. This line in the middle, you pick out the line, the measurement that you want your bands to be. You line it up to the end of your bands, and it will cut the length out for you. So, or you do the cutting, but it gives you the measurement. So for Sniper Sling .4, I cut them at 260, which it says, I don't know if y'all be able to read it or not, but it says 260 right here. Okay, so I'm going to put it on the 260 mark right here. Square everything up nice and neat. I do not cut two bands at one time. I don't layer my bands up. I think that's it's more harm than it does good. Okay, now line it right up here on the end here. Nice straight cut. extra, and I'm left over with 260 millimeter sheet of material. Okay. I'm gonna do it like this first. That way I don't mess up the cutting. But you want this to be a good solid surface too, by the way. You don't want it to be a flimsy surface or it won't cut your bands out good. All right, so I have 260 here and 260 here. I want to line those up. 260. I want to make sure everything's nice and even. I want to make sure that my last two cuts are all the way down the material. Okay. Now I got it lined up. It's ready to be cut. I have my roller cutter here. Now I do not go up, down, up, down. A lot of people do that. I can't do that and keep it consistent. I just never was good at it. Some bands slide more than others, so I've learned to keep downward pressure at all times on the mat. So this is how I do it. You can do it like this or do it like other people do it, but I'm just showing you how I do it. Okay, you have a little gap here. You're going to put your roller cutter in there and pushing down with your left hand. Just make cuts. Then I push down like this and I scoot over. And I keep my fingers out of the way of this line, or you will cut your fingers plumb off. This roller cutter will cut your finger off. I keep my fingers on the next line over so that I can keep up with what I've cut. I'm on my second cut here. Okay, next cut. Getting in a hurry here does not help anything. Just make sure you do everything nice and even. Make sure you're giving adequate pressure, I should say. And when you're doing this, be sure not to go too far forward and run into the end here. If you do, you'll move your template. So always stop before you get to the end there. Now this last one is always the hardest one to keep straight, because there's not much material to push down on because I can't cut with my left hand. There it is. So I'll take my template, roll it up there where I keep it. Get the end materials. That's trash. Trash. Okay, so now what I do, they're going to be opposites of each other. I'll go through and pick all the small ends up like this. And I'll push down right here, pull them apart. These get made together, and these get made together. Not that it matters too much. Some people says it matters a lot. I don't think it matters that much, but it is a good habit to get into. Okay, it's a brand new blade, so they are sticking together pretty good. Okay, so now what you want to do is you want to pick out what pouches you're going to use. All right, I use Sniper Sling Pit pouch, pretty much all I use. Okay, the tool I showed you earlier, you want to insert it into the back of the pouch. Okay, you have your bands here. When you pick your bands up, you're going to notice that they curve a certain way. If you're doing OTT like I am, you want to fold the opposite way of the curve. Doesn't matter, in the grand scheme of things, but it makes them look better. Okay, now, I forgot to say it, but you take the end, fold it, stick it through your little tool here, just like that, and you pull it through. And that's that. Okay, push it through the back. Take your next one, find which way it goes, fold it, put it in, pull it through. Okay, now you're going to spin that one because it's going to be upside down. Okay, now here's a part most people mark theirs, with before they do all this. I don't do that. I don't even really measure it. What I'll do is I'll take my little jig here, my little tool, and I'll put it up there, and I'll eyeball it about 1/8 of an inch taller than that bar. And it ain't got to be perfect right there. That looks good. Get it straight. That one is giving me a little fuss there, just close enough. All right, so I'm gonna pause the camera, move these bands out of the way, put my jig over here. So hold on. All right, so I have my band jig sitting here. I have my bands and my pouch. Now this is just the way I do it. There's a million different ways to do this, but this is just the way I do it. Okay, I have them the length I want them. I have the ears the length I want them. I take them, pinch this in, keep them folded nice and neat. I give them a good stretch, and I fold it together. Okay, and then I hold it with this hand right here. I hold it closed. Now I use the end of my little jig here. Let me move it closer, maybe it'll help y'all see it. But I'll stick the pouch hole just like that. Then I do this so I can use this hand easier. Then I'll come behind it instead of in front of it like most people. And then I'll just clamp it down wherever I want it. And you don't have to fuss with it. That is how I do it. I leave just a little bit of ear sticking out there. Then you have the pouch. You have the 3 holes in your pouch. I stick it in the back one like this, and then extend it. I have my snips. I have my material already laid out here. And I'll take and cut about, I don't know, 4 inches of tying material. This is just crystal string. I use 0.8. 0.1 works fine. 0.8 is what I bought. Now this is the most controversial part about tying bands. This is just how I do it. Okay. Take it, I put it as close as I can get it to the pouch. It will roll away from the pouch as I tie. I just, from underneath, I come up, roll this side over. I pull it tight, push it over, keep pressure with this finger to keep it from unspinning. Do that and keep the wraps nice and tight and even. And the whole time I'm stacking them toward the pouch. I'm not even counting these. It don't really matter. I usually do 6 to 8. If I'm using amber belt, you don't have to do that many. I don't even know how many that was, but it looks good. All right, so now I just want to tie it off. 2's enough, but I always do 3. Take this, snip it off, put that in the trash. Okay, and that's what you end up with right there. A nice, clean, even tie. And it will not slip. That does not slip. It does not even give away from the pouch. Okay, so the next one, same thing. Take it, stretch it, pull it to it. Now, this is a little bit different because it's the opposite side, but yeah, do it like that. I stick it on there. Same amount. Material here. About 4 inches. The black works great too, but the black will bleed off into your bands. And yes, I only tie with one direction, but I can let go of this and it don't go anywhere, see, because I tied over it. I even tie my square knots all in the same direction. It does not matter. Okay. Now what I do, take them, inspect them real good, make sure there's no cuts and tears, make sure they look the same, make sure your valleys are in the same direction. What I mean by valleys is this little area right here. It's got the V in it, the valley. They're both pointed up, which is good. Then I take them and pull them, max them out, and make sure nothing's going to slip or move. Good. Now I want to cut my ears off. I leave enough there so that if they ever do slip, they won't slip out. I leave, I don't know how much that is, but they're enough for them to flare out. You don't want them to be too short or they will come loose because this flare is what's actually holding them in there. I actually cut that one a little shorter than I should have, but See how they're nice and flared out? That is an excellent set of bands. And as you can see, the way I'm going to tie them on, I was talking about the band curve earlier. They are both going in the same direction. You can check the length by folding your band and your pouch in half and sticking it together, rolling it down, and they are perfect. Okay, and that is how I tie my bands. I do every set that way. There is no difference in the way I tie. Now, I can show you how I do tubes though, so give me one moment. All right, y'all. So I have my tubes here cut at a predetermined length. Now, tubes are really hard to get cut the same length. This is how I do it. I'll cut them, line the tops up, and then very gently slide my fingers down and let them slide. If you grab them at all, they will change. So you just very gently slide them down, and as you can see, they are the same length. All right, now I shoot tubes Shanghai. That's what this pouch is. As you can see, only has one hole in the center. So you get your tool, go in from the back, put your tubes in the tool, pull it to you, and pull it through. Now you do that again, just like so. Okay, now you want to pick them up, and like I said earlier, your tubes will do the same thing. They will have a curve to them. You want that curve to match. If you don't, especially speed shooting, it will fight you the whole time. Okay, so now I got that. Tubes are a little bit different. I use the black part as my gauge. Put it up there. It's the same length as my black part. This one. Measure it with that. Close enough. Eyeball it. Looks good. Make sure they're still somewhat good, and they are. So these you want to take and make sure they bend and crease straight over. Okay. So once you do that, hold it like that. Get a little tug. Make sure everything's good. I do the same thing here. This is a little bit different though because tubes want to roll around with you. Just got to work with it. Okay, now normally with if I'm putting tubes on a regular pouch, this is not an issue. But since this is a Shanghai pouch, I probably should have tied it on this to show y'all the regular way of doing it. But this being a Shanghai pouch, I'm going to have to take this one back out. Okay, I got to use that hole because it's so short. I got to use that hole the way I have my jig set up. Pull it over like that. Okay. Now I prefer to use amber belt for tubes, but crystal string works just fine. All the way up against the same thing as before. How many of all the way up against the pouch, and how many ever rounds you want to make. I do more on tubes than I do bands because they have much more of a tendency to slip. And I tie them tighter than I do bands, which I do my bands pretty tight though. I'm not even counting this, guys. It don't really matter. Just do more than 6 on your tubes. I would recommend. Tie it off. There's a lot of videos that's going to tell you to count. You'll find your own routine. Just find what works for you. If you find that your tie is off to the side like that right there, don't worry about it. Take it and tug it over. Okay. Nope, I dropped my tube. All right, so now since this was a Shanghai, I got to start over again. I shouldn't have put it in there the first time, but I wanted to show you how to do it as if it was a regular pouch. Okay, so now take it and get the curvature of my bands the same. Take and measure. Looks close enough. Everything looks good. Take it, push it straight over, pinch it, give it a tug. That one rolled on me. Yeah, be careful. These tubes will roll on you. You want to try to get them as even as you can there. Sometimes they'll roll over. I mean, you can still tie them that way. It's just not. All right, now I'm going to put it in the hole with this tube. So I'm going to stretch it a little bit so there's no friction there. Regular pouch, you won't do that. You'll just put it in this hole right here. Okay, what to do with my... Now we'll count this one. We'll just do 10 all the way up against the pouch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's good that I did that. Sometimes I miss, and that happens. I don't continue. I start completely over. I cart. Did you hear me? 1. Come on now, someone to fight me. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Take it. Just tie it. And that's it. Take it. Now, when you go to cut these little tabs off, if you pull up to cut them, make sure you give you some length there, because when you cut it, it'll shrink down, and sometimes you'll cut them too short and they'll untie themselves. All right, so now test them. Nothing's slipping and sliding. Nothing's moving. There's no gap in there when I pull it. Put the ears off. I leave about 1/8 of an inch. Just like that. And I have a set of 1636 speed shooting tubes. All right, folks. I hope that helps some people, because that is how I tie my bands and tubes every single time. You know, if one of these templates are out of your reach right now, or if you like to tinker in different tapers and things of that nature, one of these tapered rulers might be better for you. You can cut many different tapers with this, whereas this only cuts one taper. But these are harder to get used to using, and you will fumble with it for a little while. Or you can get cheaper than that and just use your ruler and an ink pen. That works fine too. But I started with a ruler, I ended up with this, and I graduated this. And once you go to a template, you won't look back. They're just amazing tools. But you can get all this stuff at omegaslingsusa.com. And guys, I really do appreciate y'all watching the video. And if you would, please subscribe, like, comment, share the videos. Hit that notification bell, because we're going to be doing a lot more stuff here on Omega Slings.